Aloha, and thanks for tuning in. So, really quickly, I wanted to do kind of a behind-the-scenes look at some of my favorite tools in flight simulation, or I'll say cockpit building, and maybe a couple lessons learned along the way. But as you can tell, some of my favorite tools in this hobby are my 3D printers. And there's a reason why. So, as you get into this hobby, you learn that you can buy pieces, parts for your cockpit at home, and there are companies that absolutely make them, but some of those prices are fairly expensive. And I'll use an example: the switch panels. You can buy a Cessna switch panel that looks similar to this for a pre-built, pre-programmed, for about $200. There's a couple different companies that make those, and you may think that's a good deal. I beg to differ, and I did buy one. I absolutely bought one. A huge mistake I made. For me, the 3D printing route is the way to go. This switch panel here cost me, in pieces, parts, and PLA, which is the plastic. That's 3 different types of plastic. It cost me about $60. When you throw the Arduino Mega on there, it brings it up to $80. So $80 for a functional switch panel that will work with X-Plane or Microsoft Flight Simulator. Vice the $200 of going with one built by a company. Now you may be saying that, well, it's cheaper to buy the pre-built one because I didn't have to buy the 3D printer. Here's the beauty of 3D printers. This little guy back here is an Anycubic Viper. This guy I picked up from Anycubic directly via their refurbished program. They actually run an eBay store for refurbished units. That printer was $120 plus free shipping. So for the same price as that built unit, I bought the printer, printed this guy out, and you can throw in an Arduino Mega. So you break even, but the beauty of the 3D printer in that scenario is you can use that again and again and again. And this guy here, which I'll put right in front here, is the Captain Bob design for an altimeter. There's 3 stepper motors on the back, there's a potentiometer, and then it's all just plastic. It cost me about $13 in parts to print this guy out, and for the shipping label that acts as the face. Throw in another $20 for an Arduino Mega, but let's be fair, because that Arduino Mega will run multiple gauges. So if you factor in, say, 3 gauges per Arduino, you're only going to take a third of the price as a hit against this gauge. So you're really talking about $7, $6.50, $7 against the gauge. So about $19 for this gauge. If you go online and start looking for gauges that are pre-built, you're going to find they're much more expensive than 19 or 20 bucks. So having the 3D printer allows you to go onto Thingiverse or Printables. It allows you to look at some of the great content creators. Captain Bob is phenomenal. He actually designs these things. He gives tutorial videos. He's just an amazing resource in the flight sim community. Can't say enough good things about him. And if you ever ask him a question, he will email you right back. He's shot me emails when I had questions. He's an awesome designer. He's a great resource to have in the community. But these 3D printers allow you to get into that side of the hobby, and you can really build just about anything you can imagine. Again, built both of these, super easy to do. If you look at my cockpit, my entire throttle section, I built myself. My transponder, I built myself. There's a lot in that cockpit that was just me doing things on my own. So the 3D printers gave me that capability. And you don't have to go this route, this huge route, This Viper in the back that I ran in at 120 bucks from Anycubic works pretty darn well. Now this guy here though, I do want to talk about this guy. This is the Anycubic Cobra Max, massive print bed. The great thing about this printer is you don't have to break designs into smaller pieces. The switch panel here was actually built in 3 pieces because it wouldn't fit on one print bed entirely. This guy has about 1.5 by 1.5 feet. That's a massive print bed. There are people in the cosplay communities that use this exact printer to make like helmets and huge bits of their armor or their costumes that they're going to go to conventions in. There's so much you can do with this printer beyond flight simulation. But for me, it's great, on this side of it. Cost-wise, again, this was Anycubic on their eBay store for refurbished products. This was 220 bucks. Not too shabby. Now, one of the reasons I like Anycubic, and that's why I went back to him for this guy here, and I bought this when I was troubleshooting this one, is when I did have to troubleshoot and figure out what was wrong with this particular printer, they were very responsive. There's a whole online forum that jumped up to help me. The people who are tech support for Anycubic sent me lines of code for troubleshooting, and they even came up with ways like workarounds so I didn't have to buy parts if I didn't want to. Now one of the workarounds would have been to turn off the heating element in the print bed and turn off the sensor here, and you would have used adhesive on the print bed. But to me, there's a lot of cleanup involved in that. So for the cost of swapping out the print bed itself, that was 30 bucks. That takes us up to about $250. So I had it for about 6.5, 7 months. Print bed died. Swapped out the print bed, and I'm back up and running. And it runs like a champ now. It really does work well. And you can see I've got a large print going. The little one over here, I had one hiccup with it, and it was this sensor, which is my filament sensor. So what I did is I just jumpered out the sensor. It's a jumper wire there, and it works like a champ. In electronics, if you've got a background in electronics or you dabble, you know that like for a lot of sensors, it's either a 0 or a 1, right? It's either off or it's on. Well, unplugged is the off. The system won't work with it like that. But if you jump around it, in this particular instance, it's a 1. It likes the digital 1, hence it working. Can't say enough good things about these. Now, these are not my first printers in this hobby. My first one was the Creality Ender 3. I know there's a lot of people that love that printer. My problem with that printer was the print bed. The print bed warped over time, and I had to manually calibrate that, and I was having problems with that. The beauty of these printers, besides the tech support, besides the online forums, is the auto leveling feature. So there's an option in here to auto level. When you auto level, and they both have it, the print head actually touches a bunch of different points on the bed. It's like 16 different points, I think. And it's about 16 to 25. And it maps the flatness of the print bed. And it will compensate for that. So you actually get a nice, even print area, as you can see here. And it keeps me from having to use any workarounds. On my old printer, or old printers, one of the workarounds to get that first layer of PLA perfect is painter's tape. You put the painter's tape down, and then you use the Elmer's glue sticks, and you put a layer of glue down, and plastic will actually stick to the glue, and that's that bottom layer. But if you notice, there's no glue now. There's no painter's tape. Because these guys auto level, they calibrate themselves. I have not needed to use that painter's tape at all on here. These two have been flawless, with the exception of having to swap out the print bed and that one jumper. They have been just awesome. I've gotten great prints out of them. And the beauty of owning these things is there's such an abundance of resources online. Thingiverse, and printables, you will find so many components out there. And I'll use an example that I've put on Thingiverse is my transponder. So I copied the, I think it's the Bendix transponder that's on one of the Microsoft flight simulator. I think it's the Asobo Cessna 172S or the SP. That transponder is one I modeled and I put into my cockpit. I designed it in Tinkercad of all things, printed it on this print bed here, and wired in, I think it's 4 rotary encoders, 1 5-position switch, an LED light, and then it's the I can't even think of it, that one LED display that really works well with MobiFlight. And that's all it took. That's all it took. Not hard to build at all. I was able to program it myself. And again, there's a video on that. The files are posted as well if anybody wants to build their own transponder. Super easy to do. And you can pick up the 5-position switch, I think was like $5. A pack of rotary encoders was like $7 or $12. The plastic is a fraction of whatever, so call it $2 or $3. So we're at like, what, $15. Then the display, probably another, I don't know, because you can buy those in packs, so call it 2. So we're maybe $18 there. And then the Uno, because I ran that off an Arduino Uno. So maybe for $25 to $30, you've got a fully functioning transponder in your flight sim. You're not going to find a $25 or $30 transponder anywhere else. You're not going to find it. And it's made possible by 3D printing, and while I'm talking about my favorite tool here, I will tell you my favorite software is definitely MobiFlight. MobiFlight is just phenomenal. There's an amazing community of people who want to help you get your projects up and running. Just a great community of volunteers and just fellow enthusiasts. They put out some great how-to videos. Captain Bob has just gone above and beyond with his online tutorials. I learned how to use all this stuff via the MobiFlight tutorials, via the Captain Bob tutorials, and building my own stuff. This hobby has opened my eyes to how helpful people can really be, and what a great community this kind of is for a hobby. So, again, probably my favorite tools in the whole hobby. It just allows you to be as creative as you want, and please pardon the pun. It's gonna sound like a dad joke, but the sky is really the limit with this. Anything you can imagine, you can build. I'm working on another cockpit right now, which I really don't want to kind of give away here, but you can see something here, and here's another piece of part. So, got another cockpit coming. Probably going to be a couple months before this one's ready, but I'm really looking forward to it. But I just kind of wanted to give you that behind-the-scenes look, and a little bit of my experience with 3D printers in this hobby, because there's people who have 3D printing as a hobby. To me, 3D printing is just a means to make my flight sim stuff more immersive. And as flight simulation kind of gets, as it grows, if you haven't seen mixed reality, where you can take virtual reality for your exterior, but have your cockpit, your physical cockpit, visible, so you get the best of both worlds, that's probably where this hobby's really headed in the next few years. It makes it so awesome to have a physical cockpit. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything at all on the 3D printing side, let me know. I'll answer anything I can. Definitely like all the feedback I get. And as always, thank you guys for watching and for sticking around. Take care, stay safe, and as always, happy flying out there.